Estranged is a Meng Shi novel. This is an audiobook made by fans for other fans. Disclaimer. The main couple of the story is made up of two men. If you don't like it, don't listen. Thank you. Remember, subscribe and click the bell to stay updated on all the new releases. Enjoy. Chapter 11. I've heard that the one who colluded with demons back then was the outstanding #1 master in the world, immortal Zhifang. What kind of place is the 9 layers of the abyss? Rumor has it that place is an abyss, but also a gate and a fence. A fence that separates the human world from the demon world. After the catastrophe that happened decades ago, the 9 layers of the abyss turned into a passage full of evil spirits, demons, and monsters of all kinds. Almost everyone agreed that it was the most perilous place in the world. Of course, if you were strong enough or felt strong enough, you could go there looking for pleasant surprises and reap a bumper harvest. Spiritual stones, fine weapons, and even fortunate meetings. Ch11 tilted his head slightly, and stared at her with his bloodshot eyes. Su Jingxian felt goosebumps on her back and forced a smile. Clan Master, this subordinate is not trying to avoid her responsibilities, but that place. For this subordinate, that place might be a bit too much to stay in even for a moment without getting in trouble. Then this subordinate. Then she will never be able to see the Clan Master again, to serve you. She looked delicate and touching, and any other man wouldn't be able to ignore her frailty. Even if the other peak masters knew that she was hard to deal with, they couldn't help but be a bit moved in their hearts. Someone cursed the evil beauty in secret without raising their eyes to look at her. Ch11 was observing her closely, not taking his eyes off of her for a moment. Su Jingxian, on the contrary, gave up and lowered her gaze. Ch11 hummed, "You can't feel secure there, but he can. Stop talking rubbish and do as I say. When you accomplish the mission and return here, I will give you some muslin from the Donghai Sea." Not only Su Jingxian, but everyone present had their faces lit up. That muslin was not just a weapon, it could also be used as a fabric for making clothes. The muslin from the Donghai Sea was a special type of fabric. There were rumors about it being made from mermaid skin. It was extremely rare, and even the imperial family considered it the jewel of their treasure collection. It was also valuable clothing for cultivators that could protect one's life at a crucial point. Many people longed for it but could never obtain it. But if one went to the 9 layers of the abyss, they could easily lose their life. So this promise was just a pavilion in the air, flowers but no fruits. Su Jingxian weighed the advantages and disadvantages and hesitated for half a day. She still wanted to refuse, but saw a black chi flash in Ch11's palms out of the corner of her eye. If she were to refuse, he would kill the chicken to warn the monkeys. She shivered with fear in her heart and quickly started speaking. Clan Master gave his order, this subordinate can't disobey. Ch11 retracted his hand. His expression improved a bit, but just as he looked at Changming, his face darkened again, as if he could become possessed by his inner demons any moment now. Su Jingxian didn't like the way things were going and immediately took a step forward to pull Changming closer. "Then we will get going, Clan Master doesn't have to see us off, this subordinate bids farewell." Ch11, who was left behind, didn't stop her. Su Jingxian breathed a sigh of relief secretly. She waved the golden bells in her hand and returned to Lingbo Peak with Changming, not stopping for a moment. When she saw familiar landscapes and servants, she felt her legs go weak. If just now Ch11 flew into a rage and started killing everyone around, the consequences would be too horrible to imagine. She didn't want to die such an indecent death. "I'm really curious, why, even though our clan master's cultivation is so high, you managed to survive facing him. Changming put his hand to his mouth and started coughing. Su Jingxian was dissatisfied. Hey, you can't play coy with me. If I hadn't dragged you away right now, our clan master would have demonstrated his skills. Even if you have a couple of secret moves, I suppose both sides would have suffered losses. I've already. Before he could finish speaking, Changming coughed up a mouthful of blood. Red trickles ran through his fingers. He bent down, and some blood spilled on Su Jingxian, immediately getting her new lilac dress dirty. Su Jingxian gasped in surprise. She was about to get angry, but got a hold of herself. Zhou Qi ordered her to bring the man to the 9 layers of the abyss, not to kill him. Furthermore, this person was full of secrets she was yet to discover, so she couldn't bear to lay her hands on him. Are you all right? Changming spat out quite a few mouthfuls of blood, and his entire hand was dyed red. He got back on his feet and shook his head. When he battled against Zhou Qi just now, he seemed not to be inferior in any aspects, but what he actually used were not his spiritual powers, but his soul consciousness. His spiritual powers were all gone, let alone the fact that he began practicing anew. Even if he had raised his powers up by 3 points out of 10, he still wouldn't have been able to defeat Zhou Qi. But the art of conferring spirit was an exception. This technique relied on using the soul consciousness exclusively, turning the void into substance, intertwining them. Its effectiveness depends on the strength of the soul consciousness. Changming had been wandering through the Yellow Springs for all these years, and was accustomed to seeing dangers that put his life on the line. His soul consciousness was profound and could be compared to the one of an outstanding master. That is why he caught Zhou Qi off guard with the art of conferring spirit and could battle him without obvious concessions. That was part of the reason, and the rest could be attributed to Zhou Qi's deeply rooted fear of his former Shizun. Even if Zhou Qi has become a formidable person, he still couldn't doubt Changming's words. Changming only needed to stand there, and Zhou Qi was already intimidated. Of course, this method couldn't be used for too long, and Zhou Qi was also not a fool. Sooner or later, he would have noticed that Changming acts tough but is brittle inside, and then his death wouldn't have been a nice one. That's why he pushed the boat with the current, returning here with Su Jingxian. Su Jingxian was uncertain about his situation and actually believed that he had a way of dealing with Zhou Qi. She didn't dare to attack him seeing him bleeding, and even took out a handkerchief and gave it to him, pouting. And yet you deceived me about the art of controlling spirit. Those 2 fox puppets from the Ch11 sect were yours in truth. Changming's bloody hands left plum blossom prints on the bright, clean as the moon handkerchief, staining it through and through. Su Jingxian was not displeased at all. She didn't even give her people an order to help him to his room, and did it personally. Since he was with the Peak Master, naturally he received the best yard on Lingbo Peak, excluding the Peak Master's one. Surrounded by mountains, waters, and misty clouds, a cool breeze brushing against their faces, this place might as well be called a blessed spot. People from Lingbo Peak saw their master bustling around, serving this man of dubious background with her own hands, and were all just staring in bewilderment. Get out, all of you. Su Jingxian lost her patience with them standing still as trees at her side, so she drove everyone out. Her interest towards Changming was growing bigger. What exactly is your relationship with the clan master? Why did he order me to bring you to the 9 layers of the abyss? Good brother, good gentleman, tell me quickly. We must go to the 9 layers of the abyss. If you want me to go, you have to give me some courage. Su Jingxian could soften countless hearts with her attitude, but Changming was badly injured and didn't pay attention to her. She remained by his side from the very beginning to the point when he stopped vomiting blood and gathered enough strength to speak to her. Are the 9 layers of the abyss really so frightening? Quite so. Su Jingxian rolled her eyes, gave him a cup of tea and began talking with assurance. On that day, the world's best masters gathered on the sacred mountain Wan, created a Liuhizushan formation, trying to seal the passage to the demon realm. Have you heard about this? Changming, I have, but very little. What happened next? Su Jingxian, then, while they were supporting the formation, one person colluded with demons, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Most of those who were protecting the formation sacrificed their lives, but the passage was opened wide nevertheless. Demons came out to the human world in swarms. After that, 9 walls were gradually created around the sacred mountain Wan. Although they can't seal the passage completely, demons can't go in and out as they wish, so it is a barrier that slows them down. Changming, who colluded with demons. Su Jingxian, I've heard that the one who colluded with demons back then was the outstanding #1 master in the world, Immortal Zhifang. End of the chapter. Stay tuned for more BL.